Hey guys, I'm Stephanie Sheik and I'm here to talk to you guys today a little bit about having a burnout and what a burnout is. So I, as some of you may or may not know, experienced a burnout in middle to late 2017 and have been in the healing process since that happened. So I wanted to do a video to explain to you guys a little bit about what the symptoms of a burnout are, how to heal from a burnout, and basically how you know that you're having a burnout. So not really in that order, sorry about that. The first thing that we're going to discuss actually is what is a burnout by definition, and also by my experience, and also I will give you guys tips on how to know how you are having a burnout. Disclaimer is that obviously I'm not a doctor, so you should definitely consult your physician. But these are experiences, these are tips or kind of notions that came from my own personal experience. So this video is very much anecdotal. It is my experience with the whole burnout thing, how I've been healing, and what happened. And in between all of that, I'll give you guys some kind of tips and tricks on how you know you're having one, or how I knew I was having one, and maybe what to look for in order to maybe help you guys catch some red flags when you think you aren't feeling so great. Nothing compares to a physician's help. And that being said, we all know that we find comfort and solace in our community, and that sometimes it's also nice to hear the experience of a loved one or someone that you know or someone that you can relate to. So that is why I decided to share my story with you guys. Please do not take this advice to mean that you are having a burnout necessarily, or that you are not having a burnout. It's more just, this is my take, this is what happened, and make what you will of it. If you want some more, for those who are maybe coming to this channel and didn't come from Instagram, if you want some more tips on mental health and wellness, the entire Chic brand is about that. You can find more at stephanieschic.com, and you can also take a look at my Instagram at Stephanie Chic for more tips, and especially this month because I'm doing 31 days to a Chicer You, and there are 3 prizes to be won, and we are doing setting intentions for each day to feel better mentally through this challenge for the entire month of January 2018. So the first thing that I want to go over with you guys, I have my phone here, and I researched for you guys the definition of a burnout, which is interesting, actually, because I hadn't really looked this up prior to this. Number 1 is tied to science, so the reduction of a fuel or substance to nothing through use of combustion. And the second one ties to humans, I would suppose, more than anything. Physical or mental collapse caused by overwork or stress. And the quote beneath it says, high levels of professionalism that may result in burnout. Which actually is interesting. High levels of professionalism that may result in burnout speaks more to me than physical or mental collapse caused by overwork or stress. Here's my story, a little bit, which is, I don't think that I was overworked, which makes me want to describe this to you guys. I've been working in retail for 7 years. Prior to that, I was in a magazine retail job. Sorry, not magazine retail. I was in magazines, publishing, fashion journalism, beauty journalism, based out of Toronto and Montreal, here and there. I did that for 4.5 years. I launched my blog in 2008, Le Cheap C'est Chic, and I have been on my social media and blogging adventure since then. So we're going on 10 years this summer, actually. When I started, after working in fashion journalism, I launched my blog in I launched my career as a blogger officially in 2011. And to kind of leverage myself financially, I took a job in retail, and that was the beginning of my retail career. I worked 7 years in retail, And was it 7 years? Sorry, no, not 7 years. 6 years. 6 years in retail. 6.5 years, I guess, in retail. And at the beginning, it was great. I loved it so much. I'm a huge people person and I love fashion. So basically, I was really in my element, to be honest. I loved selling clothes to people, not so much because of sales techniques, more so because I got to connect with people over a love of my own, being style and clothing. I worked in luxury fashion in all of my ventures. I worked at 3 companies and my entire retail career is in luxury fashion. The third job that I took, which I attribute to being an accumulation of maybe stress, how my doctor described it was social stress. An accumulation of social stress, maybe from being over socialized, and just putting too much on myself in terms of not only going to work and socializing with clients, in that at the end at my last job I was managing a store. So in that, it was my role to be front of house basically, and kind of networking with these shoppers and forming a relationship with them, which is what you do I believe when you're a good manager, is that you take these customers and you make them feel you are the first contact that they make, where they feel comfortable coming to your boutique or your store, and then through you they trust your team. So I put a lot of pressure on myself, but it also is who I am through and through, in that I wanted to always make sure that all of my shoppers and customers and friends had the best time in my boutique. So through all of that, on top of all of that, I was also connected on my social media, and I was trying to build my brand, and I was going through, towards the end, I was more going through a change where I wasn't sure if I was really connected with my brand anymore and where my brand was going. And that also ended up being one of the core signs that I was starting to have a burnout. So being overconnected with people and feeling, I guess, this overwhelming sense of stress was also one of the main reasons why I experienced this in the last job. And as I was saying a little bit earlier, I do believe that it was an accumulation of social pressure, so over socializing, because I had been doing it before I took that job, I had been doing it for 4.5 years. So in this last job, the boutique that I chose to work at, which I have no qualm saying this, as advice, choose where you work selectively, because at the beginning, when I took this job, I thought this is the best thing ever because I live next door to the store. And I remember the person who hired me asked me if it was really going to bother me. She was like, "Are you going to be okay, working near where you live?" And I suppose naively, because obviously she had more experience with this, was like, "Yes, it's the best thing ever. I'll be able to be there for you guys no matter what. And I'm always accessible on my cell phone. I'm extremely reliable," which is why that last little sentence about being over professional really struck a chord with me. I am somebody that is very much of my word. So if you ask me to do something, and even if you don't, I will always go above and beyond. So those core personality traits ended up playing a huge role in my burnout towards the end. Do not work near where you live. Just don't. Keep that separate. I don't care how convenient it is. I think the statistic is that in order to live a happy life, you need to be able to be 20 minutes away from you need to have a 20-minute max or 25-minute max commute to get to work. So keep that in mind and do that, because working next door, what ended up happening was there was no break for me. It also ended up being that my personality, being such a social butterfly and taking such ownership of my boutique and my team and the community, everything was interrelated and everything was linked, and there was absolutely no separation. And I would see clients all the time, whether I was in the morning before work going to the coffee shop. I never had time to disconnect. And beyond that, unfortunately, the reality of our world is people live very selfishly. And so, and in their own bubble. I'm not saying this in a mean way in this instance. It's more just, that is the way we are. So I would see shoppers, and obviously they would have questions about inventory, or if we got their order in, or if what we were getting next, or how so-and-so was doing at the store. The conversations would never be social conversations. They would always be related back to my work. Now, the job that I did before managing this little boutique was I was a personal shopper. So I'm very used to, as a personal shopper, you are on call 24/7. You are at your client's beck and call because you need to make your living, first of all. But second of all, because those clients, for them, like, it's with technology today and online shopping today, you're online shopping and you're like, oh my gosh, I wonder if Steph can get this for me. So that's at all hours of the day and night. So I was very accustomed and comfortable with being connected 24/7 to my clients. But the difference between being a personal shopper and being connected to them through your cell phone is that you can choose when you answer them. And of course, it's important. I answer people I give myself a 30 to 1 hour window to answer people. And I maintain that rule of thumb with the way I manage my text messages today with my friendships even, because this isn't a parentheses, but don't feel the need to answer your text messages the second that you get them, because text messages nowadays, we get so many full conversations are had through text messages. So I think it's important to kind of treat your text message as your email inbox and just give it, like, what I do is I give myself, let's say, an hour to go through my text messages, or half an hour, depending on how many it may be. And I answer them all in one shot. I don't just answer them as they come. I mean, occasionally if my mom's texting me and it's like a quick thing, for sure, but I compartmentalize that. So that's a trick on how to help yourself not feel exhausted by technology. So that's my shtick. Basically, I had been used to being very connected and being at the service of my clients. And that's not what killed me. It was really that the social pressure to be on all the time took a huge toll on my mental health and mental wellness. I was feeling exhausted all the time. I have been Stephanie Chic since 2008, guys, and I didn't want to be Stephanie Chic anymore. I took a break. Some of you watching this probably know about that. Last summer, I just completely, one day to the next, went cold turkey on my Instagram. And I was like, this is not for me anymore. And I think in hindsight, it was very much a question of feeling an overwhelming sense of pressure, because I give so much of myself in everything that I do that by default it was kind of like there was only one thing that I could really give 100%. I was starting to realize that if I wanted to do something successfully, I needed to cut stuff out, and social media wasn't paying my bills, so that went by the wayside. The other thing too is that for sure didn't help to all of this, is that in all of this, as some of you may know, I have had a zillion projects and brand launches with various friends and partners. And that is because at my heart of heart, I am an entrepreneur and a passionate person. So again, I invest 100% of myself in two things. How do you do that? It should be 50-50. But then when you have something that's paying your bills, it ends up kind of pulling your energy more. But you feel a sense of responsibility towards the other thing that you took on, and that's your passion. So normal feelings for sure. Very difficult to manage. So these things were kind of building towards the end, towards the results that I had in the end. I had a brand called Sweat Agency. Mel and I at one point had the fashion paper. That was our first project that we did together. We had We Are Summer, where we sold these novelty towels, beach towels. I had Stephanie Chic on the go. Anyways, it's just, the amount of projects that I took on, trying to also figure myself out and earn a living, was just a recipe for disaster. So what ended up happening, and I'm going to explain to you guys a little bit about how I knew I was go more into detail about my burnout. So it was July, and one night I really wasn't feeling well. Things were starting in hindsight. Oh my gosh, like all the signs were there. I even feel emotional, like to be honest, talking to you guys about this right now, actually. I was feeling negative. I feel like I would come home and I would just be like, I can't do this anymore. And I can't meet this person's needs and this person's needs and this person's needs. And my own needs are just completely getting neglected. And on top of the fact, by the way, and it's interesting because when it rains, it pours, but not in a bad way. I got married last year. So I was also planning kind of these weddings. Nick and I had a really small wedding in February, and then we had always dreamed of having a bigger summer barbecue with our friends and family. So basically that ended up being such a big event that it was almost like a casual mini wedding, casual second wedding. So I was very busy last year with my personal life. And that's also kind of the push that it took for me to realize that things were changing and I was evolving and this chapter needed to end in retail and that whole thing. So I was planning my wedding and I was overwhelmed, and I would come home and I just felt like I honestly remember, and I know that a lot of brides do feel this way, unfortunately, because the stress and the pressure is just so much. But I remember just thinking like, I just can't wait for all of this to be over. I just want to be married and I want to close the page on this. And it wasn't because I had all these things to do for planning the wedding and the parties and stuff. It was more that I was literally like, I can't keep running around like a hamster on its wheel. Like I can't be everywhere all the time, and there's always somebody that wants something of me. And on top of all of that, another detriment to this situation that really didn't help, and that's why you can handle, there's certain challenges and certain amounts of, there's only an amount of space in your life for a certain amount of challenges. Your entire life, your entire existence cannot be challenging, but obviously. But the other thing that didn't help was that in your retail schedule, and I'm getting to this because my entire burnout was basically triggered by an article that I read about retail. Well, it was the clinching moment was triggered by that. So retail schedules go, generally speaking, Sunday to Saturday. So what that means is occasionally, anybody who works retail will be able to relate to this. Occasionally, though, it's not suggested for extended periods of time. You can work 15 days in a row, let's say. Not that I was doing, I had done that in previous jobs, but I wasn't doing that so much in my last job because as manager, you can leverage a little bit more. The thing that killed me kind of, but it had been years, guys. I had been doing this for like 6.5 years of just working either inconsistent schedules or crazy kind of like hours that just don't agree with how a body should exist in the world. And it's just not good for your mental health. But also, I truly believe that this had a huge impact on my mental health and my burnout. I didn't have 2 days off in a row. If you don't have 2 days off in a row, you can only go so long. I would have conversations about this at the job that I had in the middle. I had 3 retail jobs, like I said before, and there was the job in the middle. It was so far back as already there. I was constantly like talking to people who would have earned enough seniority to have 2 days off in a row. And I was like, man, that must be nice, you know? And I remember them saying it's crucial. And I was like, yeah, I guess it is. I'm not there yet, you know? But it is so crucial, and it became even more crucial when I got married and I considered my life with Nick, and I thought to myself, Nick works Monday to Friday, and I am working 1 day out of the weekend, plus I'll have like a random Wednesday or Thursday off. This just doesn't work. I don't care how you slice it. I don't care what you think right now. Long term, guys, this is not a viable option. As a human, you need your time of rest. You need your personal time, and you need 2 days, 48 hours off in a row, whether it's in the middle of the week or at the end of the week. It needs to be 2 days off in a row. You can only go so far and push yourself so far when you don't have those 2 crucial days. 1 day is not enough. And it is not enough, I find. I'm 35, so as I got older, for sure in your 20s, if you're doing that, I mean, I could have easily done that probably in my 20s, but nowadays your priorities change as you get older. You're setting much more of the foundation of your middle to longer term life down, and there's certain things that are just, I fundamentally believe, really contribute to a healthier, happier life. And in my book, having 2 days off is one of them. Also, as an aside to that, it's that you should be you can start off your life, like Nick and I have been together basically the entire time that this chapter happened. This whole thing happened together, we're going on 7 years. if your spouse or conjoint or boyfriend or whatever, husband is on a different schedule than you can do it. You can do it for sure. My tip, and this is something that I will put into practice going forward in my own life, is that you can only do it so far. So you need to have a time frame together of how long you are going to be doing that. You can't just wing it, because you wing it and this is where you end up. So what ended up happening was, one night I don't know what possessed me to look this up, but I was kind of, I think it's that, to be honest, I think it's that a combination of things, but work just started to get a little bit more crazy at this store. They had opened another kind of like offspring shop. I really don't want to go into too many details because it's really, I really don't want to like reveal too much about this company and that sort of thing. So they had opened an offspring, but I mean, none of this is surprising. This is just the way retail works. It's just like you sign your name on a retail contract and you are signing up for a very grueling type of work. So they were opening kind of this offspring type store, and I had a bad feeling about the store in that my mandate was going to double, but at what cost? And I didn't see at this point in my life how this was going to work. And I was just like, it doesn't make sense. And that was really a trigger point. And I was starting to research articles. I was researching articles about just being unhappy, researching articles about Googling a bunch of stuff about how, I forget what it was that I Googled exactly, but it was something related to retail, like a retail, I wish I could remember. If I can, I'll put it in the notes. But anyways, it was something related to retail. Oh, it was, how come I feel so frustrated in my retail job? It was something to that effect. And I was trying to understand, what was going on. This was the middle of the night. It was probably like 1 a.m. And I remember texting one of my best friends and being like, I can't breathe. Nick is sleeping. I don't want to wake him up. I'm having a panic attack. So this is another parenthesis. I suffer from anxiety. I've been suffering with anxiety my entire life, but it was only fully diagnosed a couple of years ago. And I am in treatment for that regularly. But even in all of my anxiety, and I suffer from, the thing is, that's a whole other thing, but there's a difference between anxiety and like, I'm having a bad day, I feel stressed, which I think a lot of our dialogue is about nowadays in mental health. But people with actual anxiety disorders, and again, this is something that your doctor will be able to diagnose, that is a whole other level of challenge and just mental not feeling well. So it's managed. My anxiety is completely managed now, and I feel better than I've ever felt, ever. But I can do another video on anxiety as well. But that being said, I had never experienced a panic attack before. This was my first panic attack. My symptoms were that I was crying so much. I don't really cry. I was crying. I mean, who does really? But I don't cry unless obviously there's something that's sad. It's not a regular thing for me to be crying. I was crying uncontrollably, and I literally couldn't breathe. Not because I was crying. I felt this feeling of like just contraction in my chest and in my stomach, and I was just like, I can't breathe, like I don't feel good. I just don't feel good. And I saw a few people the day after, and I think they can vouch that I looked like I had been hit by a truck. I remember talking to my sister-in-law, and she is a doctor and she does 24-hour shifts, and I remember saying to her, I feel terrible right now complaining to you about this because you work 24-hour shifts, and like what, I just, why am I even talking about feeling exhausted like this? And she told me, she was like, Stephanie, what you went through mentally is a completely different experience and way more exhausting because of the stress and just the shock that your body is under, compared to me working a 24-hour shift where I'm used to that and I'm in my routine and I'm relaxed and I'm just ready for it. And that really struck a chord with me, because I also, not only did I feel it, but I could see it on people's faces who were seeing me. They were like, you don't look well. I was not well. So I gave my 2 weeks shortly after that, and very shortly after that, and my decision was made. It was literally night and day. After reading that article and just feeling all these triggers that reading all these all these details that triggered the panic attack in me. I knew that the point had come where it was time for change. Things don't change overnight either, because I remember it was 2 weeks later and I had talked to that same best friend and I was like, when am I gonna feel okay? I remember feeling borderline depressed, to be honest. I didn't feel well. Everything just felt like there was no, and this is crazy because it's the year that I got married. So in all of this like dark kind of stuff was happening. I remember thinking like, I just don't even know what I want to do anymore. And not that I don't feel like the will to live, but I was just like, I feel so lost and discouraged, And I felt so down. And I was just like, I just want to feel like myself again. And I remember her telling me like, you will. And you know what? Within a month, I was feeling much better and things went up and up and up. And they've been going up since there. I did decide to go back to school. I got accepted into my master's in teaching. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to, and this is the first time I'm actually announcing this, but I'm going to ally it probably with life coach certification. So this experience really changed me for the better in the long run. And there's and I will do a YouTube video on it, but there is a blog post, on my website, stephaniechic.com, linked to doing your Dharma and what Dharma is. And Dharma is basically your soul's calling. And when I think to this chapter that I'm in right now, not the burnout chapter, the chapter that I'm in right now, I feel not only that I am doing my Dharma, but that it is absolutely connected to the entire everything that I felt and that I loved and that I was passionate about in my youth, mostly in my teenage years. I feel really connected to that younger self. And I think that is such a crucial step I really agree with that in doing your Dharma, that is just connecting with who you are authentically and who you are in your purest self, which is basically who you were as a child and what your youth, who you were in your youth was passionate about. Who you were in your youth and what you were passionate about. That if you can do that or manifest that in your adult life, that is you doing completely what you are meant to be doing and where you will feel your best. And I honestly believe that I am living proof of that. So I'm just going to take a sip of water. Sorry, I glanced at my text message there. So that is my story. That is my burnout story. Deep breath. And now we are on another chapter completely. We turned the page. Stephanie Chic turned the page. And Stephanie Chic also came back as a result of taking a break and just really facing the facts. I was able to reconnect with my passion, which was social media. And I've been doing that since day one. I have been on every social media platform that you can imagine. So it didn't really make sense that I had gone off of it anyways. I remember my husband and a couple of my good friends saying, Stephanie Chic will be back. And I was like, is she though going to be back? And here she is. So they were right because, again, you should surround yourself with a community that really believes in you and supports you. So that's how we ended up here. That is basically my burnout experience. That is what my A to Z kind of was in the burnout that I had. Through my experience, I have written in point form some things that I think could help you guys, red flags that I think you guys could kind of look into if you're feeling kind of like this might be something that is coming your way, or that you're living right now and you're not sure. As I said before, please consult your doctor. Like the end story, the end details of my burnout were that basically I went and saw my doctor immediately. And even just thinking back to that appointment, I just probably seemed crazy. I was honestly just not well. And she gave me a doctor's note immediately for therapy. I do see a therapist regularly because of my anxiety. So we just kind of we took a different approach in therapy. And she also offered to give me basically a burnout sick leave from work. And I chose in the end, because it was the right choice for me, to completely leave because I didn't want to work in retail anymore anyways. And I felt like this wasn't something that was a career for me anymore, and that I felt like it was time to make a change, and there was no time like the present, literally. So it's interesting too, because I often say, had I not been literally pushed into this feeling of neither here nor there and having no other choice, I probably would have stayed in retail a lot longer. I don't think I was ever really ready to accept that that wasn't the path for me until I literally couldn't deny it anymore. So sometimes these situations that happen, which are terrible and where you feel at your lowest, can actually bring such a great outcome. Because for me, I feel like I'm living again. So it's a new lease on life, and it's by no means perfect right now. Like, there's definitely new challenges, but they're not challenges that make me feel like I need to go into this deep, dark place in my mind. It's just challenges that feel like these are normal challenges and that I can get through. They are feasible, realistic challenges. So that is my burnout. That is my story. And now I am on this new chapter, which hopefully you guys will follow along with, or follow me along. So in my notes here, I had written like, what is a burnout? So as I explained to you the definition before, and then I think other, I'm like looking for my words, other kind of symptoms of a burnout could be in some of the things that I just mentioned anecdotally. So it kind of it's tied into the next thing that I wrote here actually as well, which is, what is a burnout and how do I know? So I'm not going to tell you guys what your burnout is or what your burnout will be or has been. As I keep repeating, please consult a doctor. Like this, I'm not a doctor. I'm just a normal person. So how do you know? In my case, the things that made me realize that I was having a burnout were social cutoff. I wanted nothing to do with socializing, society, people, which is crazy because I am the most social person ever, which is why my doctor literally called my burnout a social burnout. My anxiety was increasing, which is normal. I felt exhausted. I wouldn't say that was like the number one thing because I am so used to being exhausted and just going in that kind of frame of work. You're constantly running in that type of job. There's no downtime really. But I mean, for sure, because you're mentally so challenged, you definitely feel an extended sense of exhaustion. I felt overwhelmed. Not like I was saying it wasn't from the stress of work. It was more from the stress of socializing. I felt overwhelmed by the fact that I had no control over socializing. I had no downtime. I would literally have to step out of my house and be kind of at risk of having to deal with something that was work related or a social situation, see somebody that maybe I was kind of like, I just can't see these people right now because I just need me time. But I could never shy away from that. I was never there was no shelter for me from that. Where I live, everything around me is the same community and the same coffee shops and grocery stores and pharmacies, drugstores, that all of these same shoppers, because it was a neighborhood store, would shop at. So I would run into everyone everywhere, literally everywhere. And I felt frustrated. So those are the four things. I felt a social exhaustion. Social exhaustion is what I would say. I had no desire to socialize. I felt exhausted physically. My anxiety had increased. I was overwhelmed and I felt frustrated. Those are my four or five things that were really like top of mind and just snowballing. They were snowballing. Now, and here I have written, and this is very true. In those five things, the bigger theme was that I wasn't my authentic self. And that rings so true with me because Stephanie as a person is bubbly and social and happy and positive and excited. And even in like, I am not scared of hard work or a challenge or going full force into something or being reliable. I'm not somebody that's like, I'd rather be doing nothing. But in all of this, I literally just didn't feel a connection with who I was anymore. I didn't even I felt like I didn't know who I was anymore. I was like, I don't recognize myself anymore. What is this feeling of just wanting to like hibernate? I remember, this is an interesting thing as well, and I've finally overcome this. I remember telling Nick, like, I don't want to live in the city anymore. I want to go move to the suburbs. I need to run away, basically, but I wasn't verbalizing it that way. I was like, I want to just go somewhere where I don't have to see anyone anymore and I can close my door and just do stuff on my own. And he was like, really? Are you sure about that? He was like, I don't know, because now I'm like really loving living in the city. And, you know, he's from Hudson, which is a suburb of Montreal. And whenever we had talked about being in Hudson, it was always like, I was always the one that was kind of like, really, what am I going to do in Hudson? Like at this age, like, I don't know, like, it seems really wholesome. And we do have goals of living there one day, but right now I like being connected, with everything that's around me and being a city girl, basically. So, and I've been in the city since 2006. So literally I was like, where am I supposed to go right now? Like, if I'm not going to be in the city. But then all of a sudden it was like, I was just like, just take me away from this neighborhood. And the other thing too is this neighborhood that I live in is a wonderful neighborhood in the city. Like, a lot of people would love to live in this neighborhood. And it's okay. I mean, and some people, not the same thing as for everyone, for sure. But in my case, this neighborhood was so authentically me that everybody that I would even say that I wanted to move away, they were like, are you sure? So it's just, I was like, yes, I'm sure. And it was because of what I was going through. Now I'm like, we're not moving from this neighborhood. We're staying in this neighborhood, and I don't have a car. And this neighborhood makes so much sense because I'm close to the metro and I can just do everything in my own independent way. So in all of that burnout experience, I wasn't being my authentic self. And if you are not being your authentic self, something is wrong. It's a red flag. And you might feel like you're like, no, this is the new me. I want nothing to do with this. But if it's really not who you are, it catches up with you and it kind of shows you the light. So there you go. That's how we ended up here. Now, guys, I'm going to give you some tips on how to heal from this experience. The number one thing is, first of all, if you think you're having a burnout, let's all say it together. Consult your physician. Number two is do your research. Read up about it. I didn't know I was having a burnout. I had heard about it in the industry before. I'd seen people have burnouts before, but I didn't know what those were. I was like, what does that feel like? It's more common nowadays in the world we live in. People are exhausted all the time, which is also why I'm trying to do the 31 days of mental health and 31 days to a chic or you, because I want to help people feel good. That was also one of my biggest personal mandates when I left retail was I'm tired of selling people stuff that's just not who I am. I'm tired of selling people stuff that they don't need. More than ever in today's world, we have so much. And I was like, my authentic self wants to give back. I want to help people. I want to do something that's going to make them feel really good about themselves. And consumption is not something that makes you feel good about yourself in the moment. But how sustainable is that? And long term, how good do you feel about yourself? Because you bought that one thing months ago, you've already probably bought 10 things since then. So that's one thing that just didn't ring true with who I was. Who I am. And I just, anyways, so I had seen people go through burnouts and I wasn't sure exactly what that meant, but there's an increased amount of people who are going through them. And even in my circles and my community, a lot of people have given me feedback telling me that I should keep on this path and keep talking about burnouts and mental health because it is something that is so prevalent, but that the conversation isn't totally where it needs to be at. And it's interesting because also since I've been suffering anxiety and I also had IBS, I have less IBS now that I've managed my anxiety because in my case, the two are very, very linked. I think they are linked in general because like your entire gut is a brain. But I remember, I've always thought, I remember the moment when I was like, I'm meant to do this. I just know I am. I knew there would come a time where I would use social media as a platform to do a greater good and to help people understand that to be chic is not to be perfect and to suffer from things and to feel like you don't know all the time what you're doing and that you don't always feel great. But there's so many ways to deal with it and to manage it, and that you can take certain approaches and live a very happy, fulfilled life. And that I really felt like that was my message in life. I was like, I'm going to tell people one day that it is okay to have anxiety and that it is okay to feel depressed sometimes and that it is okay to have a burnout. It happens. But that at the end of the day, there are steps that can be taken in good form to get you back on your way. And that basically what I'm learning is that if you follow the path of your authentic self and if you do your dharma, you decrease the chances of having all of those societal, basically these conditions that society puts on us because of all the pressure that we have. Yeah. So how do I heal? Do your research, consult a physician, and take a break, whatever that break means. I remember like leading up to it, I started to, do a little more things for myself. Last winter I was painting. I used to paint when I was a kid. I started painting again last winter. That felt so good, very soothing. Almost as like meant to be sign. A couple people had gifted me coloring books. Those like that big trend in just wellness, coloring to feel better. I got that. I did a few of that, painting. Discover your hobbies and cut out time in your week to do that. Therapy is an obvious prescription that you can take on if you feel like you're not well. Therapy shouldn't be stigmatized, and we should be able to talk about it very openly nowadays. And that being said, I know that there are still stigmas. I will give the example of my own personal life. When Nick and I first started dating and I was suffering from anxiety, he was like, what's therapy? Like, what is that? Who goes to therapy? I have taught him a lot over the years. We've both taught each other a lot, but in terms of therapy and mental health, I've really opened his eyes to a lot of things. So don't be scared of people who are so close-minded that they haven't experienced the feelings that you've experienced, or that they haven't gone through something similar or something that really shocks them to their core. Because any human who goes through this or goes through something similar, will seek out things like therapy, medication, new hobbies, whatever it may be, things that help you heal. So therapy is an option. Another thing that very much helped me, and it's interesting because I've been doing it more than therapy, and even my therapist was like, you are okay for now. You don't need me, is the gym. I found a gym that I love. I found a workout that I'm obsessed with, and that is spinning. And through the community at the gym where I spin, I started doing bar classes. And bar is not my favorite workout, but I've seen the results. And I, through that whole community, started eating so clean, and that totally helped my IBS and working out helps my anxiety diminish. My doctor, when she told me I was having this burnout, told me that I need to start working out and go to therapy. And I was like, I already work out. She was like, that's great. We can check that off the list. Keep doing that. There is actual science, facts, science backing to how working out and physical activity, even in the winter, just get outdoors, bundle up and go for a walk. Breathe in that fresh air. These are all things that will help you feel good. They will clear your mind. It is the new year. I know a lot of you might have joined a gym. I suggest taking circuit classes or studio classes. Like for the longest time before I got the membership at the gym, I was buying 10 packs just so I could go spinning a couple times a week. Find a workout you love and start from there. The rest will fall into place. And the last thing is community. Community is one of the 5 core values, core ingredients for living a chic life. And I would not be obviously where I am today without the help of my community. My community is also you guys, who I'm able to speak to openly about this and who give me your feedback, and I can help you guys by engaging together. But my core community that really helped me at the beginning of this was the key people in my life. And you also have to know how to pick and choose those people who are going to help you for certain things. Not everyone can provide the right help for everything. So for instance, with the burnout, if I'm being totally frank, my mom and one of my closest friends who had been through something similar really helped me. Nick was more of like an emotional support, I think, a financial support, just a home support. But Nick has never experienced this, so he doesn't really get it. And obviously my mom has never experienced this, but I'm her daughter, so she can feel my pain. So she's been a huge help to me through all of this. Find those people and don't put those expectations on it. I don't put the expectations on Nick of him understanding what a burnout is, like, or him understanding what going through a mentally challenging time is if he's not really going to get it. What I know is that at the end of the day, Nick's not going to judge me or fault me for it. And he's just going to be like, hey, cool, what do you need today? Like, let's just go on our way. But I'm not going to sit there and cry and lament to him. Like, if he can't give me what I need in those instances. So find your core group of people that you know you can really rely on for these experiences that you're going through, for these hardships that you're going through. And it might, I met a mentor also last year, somebody that I became friends with, and I was talking to her the other day. I was like, you're my mentor. I just realized it. She's helped me so much through all of this. People who, you just cross in life, look at these people who are coming into your life and don't just see it as a coincidence. There are people, when you are going through a hard time or a good time, the people who come into your life, they come into your life for a reason. I fundamentally believe that. And it is because not only can they help you, but you can help them. So look at your relationships, and when you're going through a hard time, focus on the people in your community who can really help you the most. It's not always who you expect it to be. So that is it, guys. Almost at an hour here talking to you guys about my burnout. I feel like I could have talked so much more. I have so much more content related to this and related to mental wellness, and related to mental health and wellness and feeling good. The entire Chic brand is on this path of just teaching people how to feel good about themselves and how to feel good and positive and fulfilled in life. And this is because it is coming to you from somebody that literally has experienced it all. And through all of that, for the most part, maintains very positive and such a cheerleader. So if you guys ever want to email me, you can email me, Stephanie@stephaniechic.com. You can also reach me by DM on Instagram @StephanieChic. I am Stephanie Chic anywhere you can possibly imagine. There is a Facebook page, Stephanie Chic page, and there is a Stephanie Chic Facebook group as well, where we can, I'm going to initiate it now, but we can discuss the conversation about having a burnout and mental health. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. Please like and subscribe and comment below. I would really appreciate your support, and I will spread the karma by supporting you back. So thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in my next one. All the best. Have a good one.